You are live. All right, guys. Hey, it's AG Bard Podcast. Welcome back. This is our live stream every Sunday. Let's say Sunday around 1:30. And today we're going to be continuing our topic on beauty standards, India versus African American, Indian versus African American. And we have a really interesting lineup of questions. We filmed the earlier show today, which is going to go live on Tuesday morning, Tuesday at 8. And we're talking about hair. We're talking about Indian weave or hair that comes from India. We're talking about beauty standards. We get into it. We have a few questions here that we wanted to finish discussing. And we're going to be talking about the changing of beauty standards. All right, so let's set some time here. We're going to go for an hour. Okay. What do you think are the main contributing factors to beauty standards changing? And do you think beauty standards have changed at all in Indian culture?
Well, I'm not sure about Indian culture, but I do know that there's a lot more debate going on in India based on Simone Ashley in Bridgerton, because it was one of the first times that you had a darker skinned Indian woman that was portrayed as being super beautiful and the object of everyone's affection.
Interesting. Does she have any support in India?
I'm sure she does.
Right.
But there were a lot of articles also written about why was she chosen, because she's actually not very attractive.
So people don't think she's pretty at all?
They think she's pretty because of her skin color.
That's it.
And like we said before, with skin bleaching or whitening products, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry in India, almost equivalent to the hair relaxer products in the United States, mostly used by Black females.
Right. Interesting. So, Simone Ashley.
And Al Sharpton.
Al Sharpton, he buys half of it. Simone Ashley is British, though. She's English, right?
Yes.
In England, I'm sure she's fine, right? I'm actually going to look this up live. What are people's opinions of her in India? Because if she weren't pretty, I don't think she'd be on the show.
Well, the thing is, she's okay for Western standards. The problem is, in Western standards of beauty are different than people who grow up in India.
Right.
Because in India, you're still beating yourself up if you're a little darker.
So Simone Ashley doesn't have. So tell me about her support in India. What are people saying? What are the supporters?
Well, the thing is, the fact of the matter is, most Indian people are not really light skinned.
Yeah, so, most Indian people.
Most Indian people are brown.
Like 90%, right?
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. So
the problem is, brown skin is not viewed historically as being very beautiful. It's light skin.
That's the majority of the country, though. Who came up with that idea? Shouldn't the majority win? I don't get that. That doesn't make sense to me. If everyone is this, wouldn't it be that those people would win out? To me, that's like, wow. Yeah, you see what I'm saying?
I understand to a degree, but you're talking about trying to change probably centuries of ingrained colorism.
Yeah. I wonder how Simone Ashley herself feels about it. Well, let me see. I'm going to go to interesting. Let me pull up. All right. I'll look up some stuff on her later. All right. So let's talk about right now, beauty standards have changed a lot. I have a feeling it's because of hip hop videos, right? Something interesting happened about 20 years ago. 23, 24 years ago, hip hop artists started to they would go and hire women who did not per se have the best jobs, who worked in the industry where people dance for money, that kind of thing. So they'd hire these women and then put these women in rap videos.
Just because they were attractive.
Just because they were really attractive, and they would do whatever the rappers wanted because they were already sort of morally compromised. So what do you think that would do to the viewers who are seeing these women who look like this? Of course, it's going to make people want to look like them because now they're on TV, and anyone on TV must be famous, must be cool, must be special. Earlier, we were talking about how you change a culture. Well, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
So these rappers were getting these women. There's a little documentary about it, actually. It's really interesting. They were getting women who worked in that world. And these women were curvy and this and that, and they were very, free. Let's put it that way. And as a result, the culture started to change. You look at music videos prior to that, the women looked completely different. They didn't have those type of bodies. They were more pretty, but they just looked, and they had their clothes on. That was.
It's kind of interesting that you bring that up, because something that I used to show my students about, almost 20 years ago was something called the Merchants of Cool. And for those of you who are watching or seeing this in the future, you should look it up on YouTube. You can still find it. I think it was done by Dateline or PBS, but it was basically looking at the marketing of what is cool. And ultimately, the question was, and the same question I posed to my students, is does what we see on TV or in media reflect what society is, or does that reflect what we are as a society? Like what dictates, what is dictating what? Or who is dictating it? And it seems like there's a lot of evidence to support what Bart is saying, which is what we see on TV or in media influences greatly who we become and what happens over a period of time. And if you're kind of looking towards something that might be causing a problem, it probably starts with media.
Yeah, I agree. The thing with media is sometimes people want to create an image. Sometimes they test the market to see what's going on. They test it, they put something out. I think for a large part, hip hop is sort of, it was experimental with a lot of things. I mean, it was new. When you have something new, it's experimental. They're trying new things. So when they did this in the 2000s, I guess the goal was obviously to get more people to watch, but I guess some of the unintended consequences were that they were going to change the culture permanently.
Yeah.
So you bring a bunch of women on from the adult entertainment industry, whether it be, dancing or other things. These women are going to have a certain aura, presence about them. And when they get on film, they're going to be the trendsetters for the community. So, so these women, this became a new standard in a way. So now you see, a lot of women, like you see, sort of model after what they put in the video. So, so with Simone Ashley, I think, going back to that, I think putting her there might have been strategic. That's what I'm wondering. Was it strategic? Are they trying to make a point by putting her there? Will Indians colonialism? Will Indians accept? I'm taking a look at this. There's an article here in the South China Post. Bridgerton celebration of brown women beats Bollywood. says delighted South Asians. That's interesting. Netflix is providing a lesson to Bollywood about representation. There it is. So I think there is a deliberate attempt to try to change things.
There should be. Beauty comes in a lot of different fashions. There isn't any one group that has the lock on beauty.
That's right. For some reason, it just has to be one way in India. But so let me read this. Netflix is providing a lesson to Bollywood about representation by casting smart, sassy, passionate actresses of South Asian descent in lead roles. So Netflix is actually taking lead here in this. This is good because Netflix is international. Yeah, it's international. And see, the thing is, it works because they brought Simone Ashley to Western TV first, where brown skin, funny enough, is more acceptable than in a country that's 90% brown,
maybe more. The thing is, this is genius by Netflix because you're looking to penetrate into India, right? So make your stars look like the people of that country, right?
Makes sense to me.
So
let me read this last part. It says, by casting underrepresented women, Bollywood can provide visual change in a society and culture that has a preference for light-skinned female roles. So they are sort of focusing in on this part. They're not oblivious to the fact that Bollywood has an issue with this. Isn't that discrimination though? Don't they have anti-discrimination laws in India, or is everyone just on board with this crap?
Well, the thing is, there's anti-discrimination laws in most countries, but it doesn't stop us from discriminating against each other.
But this is pretty open though. They're literally like in some of the films that we watched, some of the reports, it was like sort of universal that it was known that this is what we want. You are not this, therefore.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, to me that's racist. That's terrible. No one's gonna stop that. Is there no cry to adjust that? All right. Let's see. Let me read a little bit more of this article. By bringing more color to its female characters, Netflix's Bridgerton has secured a head start on Bollywood, which indicates that Bollywood is going to join the race. Do you think they ever will join the race?
Absolutely.
You think they will?
I think
you think Bollywood will start casting brown people?
Yeah.
Good. So is it about money? So let's say brown people. Look, okay, here's the thing. Let's look at the financial aspects of this. India as a country is 90% brown, right?
Yep.
Let's say, or more, you said. Let's say all the brown people become empowered, start feeling empowered, and decide that they're going to support these movies. Wouldn't it make sense that the directors put more brown people in there?
Yeah.
So how dedicated to the light skin are Indian producers? Is it all about money?
I think it's all about money. I mean, everything's always about money.
So it's not necessarily about beauty per se then.
Well, the thing is, if you're going to go historically, someone has to break ground. And if someone else is going to break ground, then you're fine with casting someone else in a role because you're going to be able to sell. And regardless of how unattractive someone might consider Simone Ashley in India itself, the fact is the rest of the world finds her attractive.
Right.
And eventually you're going to have to look and say, well, what's wrong with my eyes?
Right. I think this is the chance where they can start
reassessing their views.
Reassessing views on beauty and skin color. I also want to say hi to the person in the chat. Let us know who you are, where you're from. Let's type it in the comments. We're talking about beauty standards, changing beauty standards, and how businesses like Netflix, industries like Bollywood. I mean, I think Netflix has, to be honest, this is sort of like social justice warrior meets business, really. And that's how you produce change.
It's almost like a business engineering.
Yeah, it's social engineering. Because you're deliberately taking someone who is considered off market for this type of a leading role, and then you're putting them into a film into a big series. And how's Bridgerton doing? Isn't it doing pretty well?
It did amazing.
It did really well.
I mean, that the season was great.
And there are two. Let me actually go to the cast members for Bridgerton, because I thought aren't there two?
It was
Indian ladies.
Yeah, Simone Ashley played the older sister.
Okay, so there's two. All right, so the other one is Charithra Chandran.
Yeah,
that her. Okay, so two good-looking, two beautiful people. In my estimation, better looking than these two. Nicola Coughlan and Claudia Jessie. I think they both look better than them. She's attractive, Phoebe. So
everyone in the show is relatively attractive,
right?
But
I think especially Simone Ashley versus Nicola. I mean, that's clear. That's a clear winner of Simone Ashley's part. Yeah, not missing a winner. I don't know.
But she plays a certain role, like which she does really well, of Lady Whistledown. It's the show is very well done.
So you've seen the show a few times. Yes. I haven't seen it yet. I could watch an episode tonight. All right, so changing beauty standards. So here we have business getting in the business of change, of social change, which is what businesses do. And sometimes, honestly, it typically is for social justice reasons. Like I remember there was I think it was Johnny Hartman, a famous jazz vocalist. He was African American back in the 60s. Mm-hmm. Here in America in the 60s is, legalized segregation, legalized, Jim Crow. So Black artists had to come in the back door, couldn't come in the front door with everyone else, because that was considered
that's so ridiculous.
Wrong.
It makes me upset even now thinking about it.
Yeah, it's just pretty ridiculous. So I think Frank Sinatra, I want to say it was Frank Sinatra that said, I think it was him that said, if he can't come in here and perform, if he can't come in the front door or sit here or something like that, I'm not going to perform, or something like that. So like sometimes it takes, let me actually look that up.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes people standing up to the bullies to help produce that change, to push that change out. How's Black artist? Let's see, Frank Sinatra and Black artist who I think it was a white-owned club, jazz club, wouldn't let him in. So are there any changes in India at the moment when let me get back to that question. So enacted during Prohibition, the cabaret law, prevented Billie Holiday and Ray Charles from taking the stage, and even drew protests from Frank Sinatra. So here's someone famous risking his career in a way to fight for social justice in the media, right? Let me read this actual Reddit. Here's someone saying, it's not giving me the actual Reddit, but it was saying that Frank Sinatra was a fervent anti-racist, which is,
Well, and that's interesting because I bet you earlier in his career he probably experienced it being an Italian American.
Exactly. Italians, if you guys don't know this, Italians weren't even considered white at one point.
Yeah. You
can go online and type. There's a really good YouTuber. I want to give her a shout out, but I can't remember. I could pull it up. We have time. But here's a little article from faroutmagazine.co.uk, and it's talking about Frank Sinatra, and it has some interesting comments about. Here's a title: How Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack Helped End Racial Segregation in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. So here's further proof that an industry or insiders in the industry can effectuate change. They can stand up for what's right.
Facilitate things.
Right. So I think Simone Ashley and other dark-skinned Indians can eventually break into the mainstream in India outside of the roles. What are the roles they're getting at the moment? Like cleaners and stuff like that?
Well, cleaners, bad guys, people, maids, it's kind of like when you look at Doug Williams he was a quarterback for the Washington Redskins back in the 1980s. Even though Warren Moon had been very successful in the Canadian Football League, there was still a lot of questions over whether or not a black quarterback could be successful in the NFL.
Okay.
Even though Warren Moon had won a bunch of Grey Cups, which is the Canadian equivalent of the Super Bowl.
Okay.
And so then it's kind of like, well, is a black quarterback smart enough? Are they talented enough?
Right.
And
I've seen that.
it's a ridiculous argument when you think about it now from the vantage point of 2023, because you've had so many very successful black quarterbacks, or at least mixed quarterbacks, whereas until the 1980s, the quarterbacks were all white.
Yeah, interesting. And it sometimes it just takes one. Let me read this real quick. It says it's well known that the Beatles refused to play a segregated audience during their 1964 American tour. What's less known is that Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack did something very similar in Las Vegas years earlier, helping to end racial segregation to the attention of major policymakers. As in most other American towns in the 1950s and early 60s, Las Vegas entertainment venues were segregated between white and black owned establishments. Almost all of these venues were owned by white business people, meaning that black Americans were barred from entering the majority of venues, regardless of their criminal history. Las Vegas black-owned entertainment venues were mostly confined to the west side of the Strip. African American and Hispanic workers were forced to work low-paying jobs in white-owned clubs, or else seek employment at one of the clubs that favored black workers. All right, so there was a little bit of.
Well, I think that when we're looking at how this applies to Simone Ashley and Bridgerton, it's that. I lost my point.
Okay, all right, no problem. So while you're thinking about that, let's get back into this. So I think.
Oh, it's like basically Simone Ashley is almost like Jackie Robinson for baseball.
Okay.
In a lot of ways, where
right.
It's like breaking the race barrier, except we're talking about a race barrier that is imposed by your own race.
Yeah.
It's like a color barrier.
Yeah, so it's a self-inflicted wound.
Yeah.
Let me what I want to do is kind of want to edit the chat. I want to edit the title. I wanted to put Simone Ashley's name in there, but oh, hey Brett. He said, what did I miss? We're just talking about how industry can start the change necessary for society, how you can socially engineer society. For instance, Simone Ashley, she plays in Bridgerton. She's a dark-skinned Indian woman. She's brown-skinned, and a lot of Indians are upset. They don't understand why she's even in this film, because she's dark-skinned, and they don't think she's pretty because she's dark-skinned.
And they've been so brainwashed that they can't see beauty for beauty.
Right.
They only look at skin color.
Right. Skin color comes first. If you're not the right skin color, they don't even consider you for a role, or you're a bad person, which is really evil.
And you can even see that in that BBC report, video that you sent me, where they basically said one girl was just not attractive because she was darker.
Right.
And they said, well, she's not going to get a role because, well, maybe she could be a maid, but we don't want her. Just no. That was what she said. Just no.
Yeah, I think that's messed up. It's active discrimination. You're telling people you won't get a job unless you're this color. Now, in your estimation, what percentage of Indians bleach their skin to get roles? Like, how pervasive is it in society?
I have no idea.
For jobs?
But It seemed, at least from that video, it seemed like it was very pervasive.
What's interesting, because I lived in Korea for years, the Koreans would be forced to do surgery to look, not forced, but in order to get a job,
to increase their chances,
they would do nose surgery, they would do eyelid surgery 100%, especially the women. The guys could get away with not doing the eyes. The guys would do the nose. They would get like a Tom Cruise nose or whatever. They were kind of obsessed with Tom Cruise. But they needed it to get jobs. So beauty was, it wasn't just skin deep. It had to be, your structure, you have to be tall too sometimes.
Do you happen to
got to pass tests, all these tests out there?
On a humorous note, did you ever happen to hear about I think it was a Thai guy who got divorced from his wife because she had so much plastic surgery when when they had a kid, the kid turned out totally different color and stuff. And
I saw that. That was a Thai or a Chinese guy. I remember
might have
that.
been.
Yeah.
And then he was like, "You lied to me." Well,
yeah, he sued her or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a Chinese guy. Yeah, it was interesting. The kids came out looking really, really not like her. They came out looking like someone else's kids.
Well, because she was bought.
You know what, dude? How ethical is having all that surgery to look different, and and then getting married, and then your kids come out looking like what the husband wanted? I mean, is there any ethics? Do you think any ethics
Well,
sort
I
of
think that
violations?
we don't really have any control how kids come out. I mean, in terms of how they come out looking, but I mean, on some level, I don't think it's the other person's responsibility, because if you have so much societal pressure that you're finally going to spend money to modify your outward appearance, then you know what? Buyer beware. It's you deserve it, and that goes for both of you.
All right, let's do this. I'm going to go back to our little vision board here when it comes to beauty standards. Let's see. All right, so let's talk about this. Brett, what do you think? What do you think about Brett? Do you think white people are being influenced by other people?
Oh yeah,
for
absolutely.
In terms of beauty standards.
I mean, why do white people want to get a tan? I mean,
is that could that be to look like other Europeans, like maybe South Europeans?
I think it's so that they can look like people from the Caribbean or Indians, or that's what I think.
I wonder how, because like when they get a tan, they're not looking like me. They're not looking like 90% of Indians.
Well, they can't, because they're going to get burnt by then.
But some of them can tan though. They get pretty dark.
Yeah, and I think that like they want to get that Mediterranean look if you're white,
Yeah, I think that's more of like an olive, it's literally the tan color. Like it's not brown and it's not black. It's something else. It's like a Mediterranean. It's still there in Europe. Well, but it's their version of dark.
To be honest, I've heard over the years so many different people come up to my mom and say, "Oh, you have beautiful skin." That's never been from an Indian person. It's always been for white people or black people who've said, "Your skin is beautiful."
Wow.
Because to Indian people, my mom's skin is not beautiful because she's dark.
Wow, that's terrible. Brett, what do you think about the standards of Brett? Do you think white people tanning? Are they trying to just look a little bit more Mediterranean, or what's that about? Give me some insight. Give us some insight on that. Then we got while Brett's doing that, if he agrees to do that, then we have lips in the butt. Now, the full lips, that could be from African American culture.
Most likely is.
It could be. There are some other ethnic groups that have full lips, right, that are in the country.
Who?
Some Hispanics do. Some Hispanics do.
But then again, they might be mixed.
A lot of them are mixed by virtue of, like for instance, Mexican, mainly indigenous.
I mean, typically though, when you think of lips, you're thinking of African American or African people.
That's true. Like, so Brett says exotic. So people want to look exotic, Brett? Is that what you're saying? Oh, so they're trying to look exotic. Okay, cool.
Well, I mean, like for example, when you think of bigger butt, you're usually you think of an African American or African woman, right?
That's true. Although some African women don't have that.
Well, but then when you take it as a percentage of the population, like if you're looking at lips and a butt, that's usually going to be.
It's going to fall in that group.
Yeah. Like, because if you're thinking about a white woman, maybe, well, most of the time they might have pretty thin lips, right?
That's true. Sometimes, yeah. Just depending.
Well,
Depends on the woman.
There's a lot of makeup that can change the appearance,
Right.
but naturally, compared to a African American or Black woman, there is not much going on there.
I wanna explore this real quick. Imagine a Black man with Indian hair sewn in. Imagine a Black guy with weave. How do you think he'd be received in American society?
As a clown?
As a clown.
Yeah.
How do you think? Now you know what's interesting?
Uh-huh. I'm thinking of something like from those Jerry Curl ads from
the 80s.
Yeah, from Coming to America.
Yeah. All the spray.
Yeah.
I remember spraying that stuff in my hair.
Soul Glow.
Yeah, right on. Get some of that Soul Glow. I think. All right, so I think if you were to take say for instance, if you were to take a African American guy and give him a weave and put like straight hair, I think African American women would laugh at him.
Yeah.
But hold on now. Before you laugh, aren't you doing the same thing? Aren't you doing the same exact thing? Putting, putting hair that doesn't belong to you in your head.
You bring up a really valid point, and the thing is, it's actually really loaded because you're talking about, well, number one, how do you look, but then kind of on a deeper level, well, especially since we were talking about in our podcast about the temple where all of these Indian women go to donate their hair, and that hair is then sold mostly to Black women.
They're donating it, and they probably need the money. Shouldn't they be selling it? Well,
no, they're doing it for religious purposes. So then they're believing that is what their God is asking them to do in this ceremony called tonsure.
So that he can turn around and sell it.
And then the temple collects the hair
and sells it.
And then there's people who buy the hair, and then they make a huge amount of money. Like,
it's crazy.
I mean, in that movie, Bad Hair, literally there's an Indian guy walking around Beverly Hills with a suitcase of Indian hair of different lengths. And then Beverly Hills is the starting point of where this guy is going to be selling his hair to different
Beverly Hills.
Weave specialists who will assess the quality of the hair and then purchase it. Okay?
Yeah.
And so what this Indian guy said, this whole suitcase, he said one suitcase might be worth $15,000 in 2009 money.
Wow.
Of hair. So they said, well, how long will it be before this gets to Watts? Or Compton? And he said, well, you know what? It's probably going to all be gone before then. It'll probably be gone in a couple hours.
Fascinating. Fascinating. Actually, unbelievable. That's actually the name of our. Did we name this podcast that? Yeah, unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's once everyone's doing it, it tends to lose its sting in terms of being abnormal, and then going back to normal seems abnormal. Think about that. Everybody's doing it, so it seems normal, but everybody knows in the back of their mind that it's wrong. Well, most people know that it's wrong. It's not self-loving. It's problematic.
Well, self-hatred.
Right. It's a form of self-hatred. But they do it anyway. And then the person who wants to wear their hair natural is looked at as being a weirdo.
Yeah.
Think about that. Isn't that weird? Are Indian women who don't bleach seen as weird?
I don't know, because you don't know if they are bleaching or not.
Right.
That's the difference. So like with a weave, you can tell the difference between natural and a weave typically, right?
Yeah.
Or like heavily relaxed hair. But with Indians, it's really difficult to tell, because they're not going. A lot of times they're ashamed of it. They're not going to tell you well, I'm actually darker, but I've been using Fair and Lovely cream for long enough.
I'm a great customer.
Yeah. And now I've done a Michael Jackson on myself.
You know, they're not going to tell you. That's interesting.
Like, I'll tell you, and it's something that affects guys too. And even the way families communicate with their children. I used to have a roommate, and his mom used to send him a whole bunch of Fair and Handsome cream so that he could lighten his skin.
Wow. Fair and Handsome. The name is just ridiculous.
It didn't work.
Yeah, so are there people whose skins are resistant to the change?
I don't know, but I think that probably can't. I mean, it can't be good for your skin.
Right. It's not nourishing.
No. I mean, I would be afraid of cancer and a whole bunch of other problems that it might cause for you in the long run.
Sure, for sure. All right, so we got that. We got the lip augmentation too. I noticed a lot of women are doing lip fillers. Is that a thing in the Indian community? Lip fillers?
As far as I know, no.
Nah? Okay. Yeah, a lot of women are doing lip fillers, and they're making their lips a little bit more plump. Let me look at some of this data here. Lip augmentation market size. This is a market analysis report. It says the global lip augmentation market size was estimated at 6.4 billion in 2022. I wonder how much those injections even cost. That's a good question. The actual injections. And it's projected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 78% from 2023 to 2030. Wow, 7% annually for the next 7 years.
I think it'll grow more than that.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, because you look at the increase in news articles about women having some kind of plastic surgery accident in Mexico or overseas. I think it's happening a lot more.
Let me ask you this. How long does it take before we get, let's go back to skin color real quick. How long does it take before we get acceptance of skin color in, let's say, in India? How much work does Netflix have to do?
I think they probably have a good another 20 years, 25 years.
Okay, so another generation.
Another generation.
Yeah. All right, so just keep working until you get your result.
And I think that it helps, like, as the world kind of gets shoved together, you have more interracial marriages and different things where you end up with I don't know, kind of a different skin tone that is accepted by a bunch of people in the middle that are mixed race, and right. I think that actually helps humanity in a lot of ways.
Interesting. We've been working on trying to get acceptance of hair for decades. It doesn't seem like it's moving now.
Well, I think that it has the possibility of making strides now. Like, it's like the tip of a spear. It takes a while to penetrate, but I think that it's there finally.
Wow. Okay. Let's look at this. Well, I think we have a couple more. Let's go for another couple minutes, and then let's about 39 minutes in. Let's go for about 10 minutes, and then
sure.
Let's wrap up here. We don't have that many more slides to go. So, title.
Sorry, question for you.
Yeah.
If it's cultural appropriation if you dress in blackface or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
To act like Michael Jackson because you admire him.
Right.
Is it cultural appropriation for a white woman to have a let's say a
like
Brazilian butt lift or a lip augmentation surgery?
I'm not a part of that cultural appropriation crowd, so I don't think so, personally.
Is it cultural appropriation for a black woman to have a weave made out of Indian hair?
I personally think so. I personally think anytime I think it's just cultural. I think it's self-hate. I think it's just sad when, I mean, look around and there's hair from people over in Asia. You know, it's just so sad. Like, I don't, I think it's just unhealthy. And like I said, you can pull, I think when it comes to hairstyles, I think the only people who find hair to be culturally appropriative
Mhm.
uh, are black. I think black women are typically the ones who defend their hairstyles, like the different braids and things like that. They guard it fiercely, and anytime a woman, with hip hop culture, you started noticing people do cornrows, right? A lot of women of other races started doing cornrows, and then people like
I had a cousin who did cornrows.
male or female.
Female.
Oh wow! And I'm gonna be honest, it does look good on other women sometimes, right? And I don't think they should try to stop other women from,
One of my
doing it.
best friends who's also Indian did cornrows.
Interesting, girl or guy?
Guy.
Wow. So yeah, I don't think people should. It's a hairstyle. Like, if you're gonna stop Indian people from doing that, you shouldn't be straightening your hair,
Mhm.
and you definitely shouldn't be wearing Indian weave. That doesn't make any sense. How are you gonna take someone else's culture and then complain when they use yours, take yours, and with African American, I forgot my thought on that. Let's move on from there. How do you feel? Did I ask you?
Ultimately, like from watching Good Hair, which I recommend that anyone who has not seen this movie. It's a 2009 movie done by Chris Rock. It's kind of like a comedy documentary. You should watch it. But I never realized how much effort Black women put into their hair and how much money was spent on hair. Like, I get frustrated when I'm spending like $24 on a haircut. And we're talking about women flying across the country to their hairstylist.
That's actually crazy. That it's just one woman doing that, right? I don't think.
Well, there was actually a couple we talked to.
That's crazy. Makes me wonder what she's doing.
Well, it seemed like a lot of the guys, the husbands that they were interviewing, were pretty blue collar people, and the women were blue collar as well. It wasn't like
we're getting all the money. Where are they getting all the money?
I think they're spending all of their money, because what he actually talks about is some people would not feed their family, but they'd get a weave.
Wow, that's insane. Let me do this. It's getting really hot in here. Hold on, let me get off camera for a second. We'll keep that going live. Yeah. But just I had another question about the weave. How do you feel when you just picture this? You see, women here in America with weave, and it's hair from people from your culture, from your ethnic group. How do you feel about that? Isn't that weird?
I didn't even know that happened until yesterday.
But now that you know, isn't it kind of weird? Isn't it kind of weird that's happening? That you see these African American women wearing. Just think about that. There's just around here, there's got to be a couple of hundred women wearing Indian hair.
Maybe they suddenly start liking curry more. I don't know.
All right.
Can I have a samosa? No.
Wow. I mean,
I don't know. I haven't had enough time to think about it. I mean, I feel really bad that they have to go to that effort in order to feel good about themselves. That's what I was left with. It was just empathy,
I feel bad too. It's just, it doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem right. It seems like a lot of work and a lot of money, wasted money, when they have their own hair. I remember did you see the scene where Chris Rock asked the girl, would you like to have, some of this other hair? She's like, no, why would I want other hair? Like, I have my hair. Isn't that sad to you?
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that really sad?
When she asked the Indian girl.
Yeah, it's the Indian girl that. And she's like, no, why would I do that?
Yeah.
And it's like, to me, it blows my mind. It's
funny.
like,
they were talking to this one Indian lady after she left the temple, after she had her hair shaved. And they're like, well, how do you feel about someone walking by with your hair? And she was like, it's okay.
How do you feel about somebody selling your hair and making a bunch of money while you're giving away for free? See, they turn this into it's a business.
I always knew since I was young that you could sell hair, because there's an old Christmas story called Gift of the Magi.
Shout out to the viewers. This is our second stream, guys, so we're getting ramped up here. Okay, let's look at this. Who has the power dynamic now when it comes to beauty standards? Who would you say? Would you say it's kind of even? We've got people doing lip fillers. We've got people doing BBLs. Actually, all races are doing BBLs. There's black women. Not all black women hit the mark when it comes to that type of body, and they feel even more pressure, I think, because they're African American. To look a certain way. Who do you think has a power dynamic now when it comes to?
I think it varies depending on the region of the country you're in. Like in Southern California, I'd probably say Hispanics.
Okay. Yeah.
And probably in South Florida, it would be, I don't know, Venezuelans, Cubans.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to the 4 people in the chat. Leave us a comment. Let us know where you're from. Let us know who you are.
Well, Brett says he thinks it's starting to be even. And I tend to agree with him.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it doesn't mean that. I don't think white women have, because let's just be honest, Brett, you're a white guy. White women sort of kind of had the standard for a while, right? And it's because the majority of people in the country, the majority of money in marketing, right? That's what people are seeing. So like, oh, I want to be like her. Oh, she's pretty. This movie star is pretty. Audrey Hepburn, the Koreans love her, Yeah. So I think it's about marketing, but now that you have Instagram and social media where people can market themselves.
Audrey Hepburn is a really fascinating case.
Why so?
Because she's a universal standard of petite beauty, right? Mm-hmm. But what people don't realize is during her formative years, she was being starved in the Netherlands.
Oh, wow. Is she from the Netherlands?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
She's Dutch.
She's Dutch. I had no idea.
She was being starved because the Germans had occupied the country. They didn't have enough food.
Wow.
So then one reason for her really petite, elfish like frame.
Elfish. Guys, can you give us a like in the chat, please? We really appreciate it. Give us a like.
Basically.
I've never heard anyone say elfish before.
I should have been elvish.
Oh, okay. Elfish, like elf-like.
Yeah, elf-like.
Oh, elfish.
Her features could largely be because she was so malnourished.
Wow. So she was missing calories.
Yeah, she was missing a lot of calories.
Unlike today where people are getting too many.
And it could have stunted her actual growth.
Wow. So
what we look at as this ideal Western standard of beauty is a girl who's probably malnourished.
Right. All right. Okay. That's interesting. But okay, here in America, skinny was in at one point.
Correct.
Skinny was in it.
But
we weren't starving here.
You look at the same time, you have Katharine Hepburn or Audrey Hepburn that is really beautiful, right? Mm-hmm. You have a much fuller figured woman in Marilyn Monroe. Okay. And you look at a lot of the women that were being painted on the side of American planes or ships, they did not look like Audrey Hepburn.
Interesting.
So the standard though changed over time.
Okay, let's do this. All right. Hip hop. We talked about this a little bit today in our show that's going to come out on Tuesday, guys. Tuesday at 8 a.m. Look out for our show, our podcast. We're going to be talking about this. Really good, actually. I actually enjoyed this one. I learned a lot. Seiji's got an interesting story you guys will want to hear. A couple of interesting stories, actually. I think hip hop is changing things. Hip hop is the #1 music right now in America. And to me, that's kind of scary in some ways because hip hop isn't necessarily the best influence. but at the same time, it produces a certain type of beauty standard.
Yeah.
Guys in hip hop don't like girls who are skinny and flat on both sides. They don't, that's not their thing. So because of that, it's who's this? Who's that?
Lovely Yessie.
Lovely Yessie. Who's that? You know who that is? Lovely Yessie. Who are you? What's your name? Okay, let's read her comment. It says, we're just trying to feel love. Good Ting Lotto. What's that? Well, yeah, I mean, of course they want to feel love. Yeah.
The thing is, I think what she's saying is they're modifying themselves just so that they can feel appreciated and
be marketable.
Yeah, it's sad when you're at a point where you're having to literally pay huge amounts of money to feel some sort of love. Or
to not be overlooked. Because the way women date in a different way, women make themselves known, guys hunt. So in order for a woman to be seen and to stand out, she has to have...
Well, it's like a way of peacocking.
Peacocking, exactly. You know, flaring the feathers, being known, hey, I'm over here. So you have to look a certain way. It makes sense that women would spend much more money to actually, you know, grow or get certain things. Brett says mainstream hip hop is poison. Agreed. Underground hip hop is more positive. Agreed in many ways. Definitely 90s hip hop, much more positive. Mainstream hip hop is like not just poison. It's like a lot of it's just demonic, like straight up devil music. All right, so the power dynamic. Brett says it's even. I think it's about even to. It probably, yeah, depending on where you are in the country. Now let's look. I mean, this isn't. This is probably another topic I was going to get into, the whole interracial thing, this marriage statistics, because you got the number one group. We'll probably get into that. We'll save that for another show. So beauty standards. All right. So look at Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
We were talking about her last night on the phone. We didn't mention her in our podcast today. But you said her lips aren't real.
Yeah.
They're those fillers?
Yep. They're fillers. Julia Roberts.
Julia Roberts
she was
also?
the first person I ever heard of that had some kind of Botox or lip fillers or something like that.
I'll be honest.
She was way ahead of her time.
A lot of the fillers, a lot of the lip fillers, like some women go too far though. Like they look like they got punched in the mouth. That's how some of the lips look. It doesn't look natural.
I don't think Angelina Jolie's lips are that pretty, honestly.
I never liked Julia Roberts' lips.
Yeah.
But there are some great looking full lips out there. I just haven't. I just don't know their names. All right. So, you know, to be honest, man, I feel lucky to be the guy in America. We don't have to deal with any of this stuff really. For us, it's what? Go to the gym, build up a little bit, make money.
Well, I think that guys have different. I mean, like, guys have a lot of pressure. I mean, like you look at, for example, what a male looked like in 1960 and then a male now. I mean, could you imagine someone like Charlton Heston being cast in a leading role? I mean, like he looked like every guy walking down the road that's about 6'2", you know, just a tall, skinny guy, you know, and he was a heartthrob at one point, you know.
You know, in certain places, like you don't have to be. Like here in America, I feel like you have to have like an pretty athletic body to really. Yeah. But even if you don't, if you have a good career or a good job, you can do well in the dating market. But for women, dude.
Well, and just to give you an idea though of how males' ideas have changed. For example, in the late 1890s, there was what was called a fat man's club, right, in the U.S. And you had to be a minimum of 300 pounds to join this club. There were very few men in America you could find that were 300 pounds or more. And it was called the Fat Man Club.
Fat Man Club, and people wanted to be in this?
They wanted to be in this.
Why?
And you look at 300 pounds, there's a lot. I mean, we could probably go 1 mile from here and find 20 people that are over 300 pounds, you know? But when you look at this also as it pertains to baseball, right?
Right.
George Herman Babe Ruth, was 6 foot, 6'1" tall.
Which is tall for back then.
Back then.
Really tall.
They called him a gorilla.
Interesting.
Because he was so big compared to the
normal guy.
Yeah, he was like 200 pounds. They were like, this guy is huge. That's why he can hit the ball so far.
That's part of it, yeah.
By today's standards, 6 feet tall and 200 pounds is not very much.
It's kind of almost normal in a way.
Well, I look at even one of my favorite baseball players, Don Mattingly. He was about 5'11", 6 feet tall. It's only about 175 pounds when he started playing.
All right.
That would be tiny by male standards in baseball today.
All right, let's repeat this question. Let's give the room a little bit of opportunity. We're going to ask you guys this: is it cultural appropriation to wear another person's hair or hairstyles? Now we know that some of the loudest voices when it comes to this are African American women, but you don't see women with straight hair telling them not to wear their hair straight. That's what's fascinating. You don't see that.
No,
I've never seen someone say, why are you wearing your hair straight? I've never seen that. But when Kim Kardashian or some famous person, I can't think of anyone else, wants to put cornrows or some sort of African-American style, it's a huge issue. It's like national news. Oh yeah, it was big. Black women were upset.
I didn't realize she had cornrows.
Yeah, let me show you a picture.
Was that when she was married to Kanye West?
One of the black guys she was married to. I don't know. There's just been so many. Who knows?
Well, I mean, I guess
like here she is with braids, right?
Yeah.
Female hair.
I mean, I guess if she was married to Kanye West, like
I'll show you guys a picture.
Like when she's married, is it cultural appropriation? It's your husband's culture, so it should be your culture, right?
I guess, but the thing is if look, there's hypocrisy there.
Yeah.
It's like me wearing let's say for some reason a black guy wanted to start straightening his hair. And I've seen some black guys do this. It's rare.
Al Sharpton's
one. He loves the straight hair. Nothing wrong with straight hair, but let's say you can't then turn around and tell a white guy with straight hair not to do a fade or to not do dreadlocks or something like that. But you're doing, it's like, what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine also. That's the attitude. The attitude is I can do whatever I want. Brett says depends. Explain, Brett. It's like I can do whatever I want, but you can't do whatever you want because this is my culture. So it's like we're this protected class. Like you can't do anything with our culture.
I think that black people might be more protective of their quote culture because they look at it and they're like, okay, well, there's so few things that I can be proud of, and then they get really defensive.
That's true. I mean,
and that's the thing that's really sad.
That is true. I found another picture here of Kim Kardashian with braids. Okay, so but I don't necessarily think this is okay. They call these boxer braids. And I'm going to show you guys this real quick. These are boxer braids, right? Obviously the big picture. So this is a name given to a hairstyle by. It's a name. It's a black. It's African thing, right? But I don't see this as being originated in Africa. People were braiding their hair in different places.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have images of Native Indians with braided hair.
And I think they even had like a bunch of Scandinavians that had dreadlocks as well.
Right. So it's not like, you know what I mean? But I guess what they're saying is what African Americans are saying is in this country, we're the ones who do this. We don't care about what happened 200 years ago or over.
But the thing is, I think it comes from a place of total ignorance,
Right.
Where Black people have taken on things as their culture, not knowing that things happened elsewhere in isolation as well. And it's just as much a part of someone else's culture if they claim it, It's kind of like when, I don't know, let's say Arabs say, oh, well, we built the pyramids. I mean, not that they do. Or modern Egyptians. It's not modern Egyptians. It might have been a dark-skinned African who built it. We don't even know. The point is, these are things that developed and are they're owned by every person on this planet, including Chinese people, because we don't know who made what.
Right.
And we got to recognize those as just kind of, it's our heritage as humans. There are things that make us beautiful and unique, and God created all of us.
There it is. All right, guys, we're going to wrap up here. We want to thank you for the few people that showed up to the chat. If you have any questions before you go, put it in the chat. We'll answer those questions. If you have any comments for us, put it in the chat and we'll read it to you guys. Brett says it depends, but he didn't explain what that means, what he's talking about. So we'll give you guys a second, whoever's left, to put a question in the chat if you want to ask anything, and we will answer, and then we're going to wrap up. We're here at an hour. Just to let you guys know, Seiji Bard Podcast, business, finance, health and wealth, and social issues with a unique perspective. You can catch our podcast, our uploads at Tuesday morning at 8, and Sundays at around 1:30. You can catch us live here on YouTube. Maybe in the not too distant future, we'll be on Facebook as well. I don't see any questions, so we are going to wrap, guys. And as always, thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one. All right, bye.
Thank you.